Hello everybody, welcome back to the Prognard. I am your host, Jacob Williams. So, one of the viewers requested that I take a look at the Let's Roll scenario for Labyrinth, the War on Terror, and kind of do a comparison between the old AI flowchart and the new AI flowchart in the Labyrinth, the Awakening expansion. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. Couple of things before I get started. I've kind of given this disclaimer in my coin videos in that there's a lot of bookkeeping when doing these solo AI flowchart games, and it's super easy to make a mistake, and I'm probably going to make a mistake, and I've probably already made a mistake with just the setup. So, I really don't need people pointing out every time I make a mistake, because it's going to happen. And like I've said in the coin videos, when you're doing this solo, it's for your own entertainment. Don't try to get too bogged down into the accounting details, and you're going to make mistakes, so just go with it and do the best you can. All right, so with those ground rules set up, let's go ahead and get to this comparison. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It'll probably be broken up into segments. Probably try to play at least 2 hands of this and see where we stand. I don't anticipate playing a whole game, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, this is just supposed to give you, the viewer, a good idea of the changes between the 2 bots and maybe see how they play. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is the Jihadist's hand. And I said this in one of my other Labyrinth videos that I like to use this area right here to help me play. I'll put the first Jihadist card here and the second Jihadist card there. And that kind of helps me know how many cards the Jihadist player has played. I realized that, let me get my pointer. I realize the board has this right here for tracking cards, but I don't know, I just don't like to use it. I don't really get a lot of value out of it, even when I'm playing face-to-face games. So in solo mode, this just kind of helps me keep track of everything a little bit better. And then I have my hand of cards on this card holder that I may refer to, or that I will be referring to. So let's go ahead and get started. Do I want to say anything? Because I'll probably also be doing some analysis as I go through here. Sorry about my constant throat clearing. One of these days I'll be better at YouTubing, and we'll either edit that out or not have them. But anyway, so this is the Let's Roll scenario. This is the full game. What is there to talk about before I get started? I'll probably do some classic moves, which is doing a regime change here in Afghanistan. I have enough operations cards in my hand to do that, or I have enough operations cards in my hand that I can go ahead and do that regime change, and then if the War on Terror penalty gets too bad, I can do a reassessment so I could get into soft posture, which always tends to be the classic dilemma in this game. I find it's much easier to play this game when the US is at soft posture, because every non-Muslim country, whenever you test it or do a realignment there, or war of ideas, there's a 2/3 chance that it's going to go to soft. So playing the probabilities, the world's mostly going to be soft during this game. Obviously not every time, but that's what I tend to find. So doing that early regime change in Afghanistan is a big gamble. I don't think I have too much analysis to say other than that. I find when you're playing as the U.S., you really kind of have to react. It's hard to have a plan going in. So let's just play the first card and see what happens. The first Jihadist card is Pirates. Okay, play of Somalia or Yemen under Islamic rule. So this is not a playable card. So let's see how the different flowcharts handle that. Let's look at the original. The original asks, is this a playable non-US event? No, it is not. Is it a playable US event? No, it is not. So let me see, in case anyone has questions on this solo play. So we asked, is this a playable non-US event? What we have is an unplayable Jihadist card, so no. Is this a playable US event? No, because we already said it's a non-playable Muslim or Jihadist card. And now we start to get into the interesting things, which is a major jihad possible? And the answer is no, because we have no place where that's not under Islamic rule and that there are 5 more cells than troops. So that situation is not on the board. Jihad is not possible because we don't have, or sorry, it says jihad possible in a good or fair country, which is also not possible because this is the only place on the board with cells. And then it asks, are cells available? Well, yeah, we have a whole track of them. So this bot is going to do a recruit. Right? So this is what the old flowchart would do. Let's take a look at the new one to see what they're going to do. And I'll probably choose to do whichever one is more effective in this, throughout this video. I guess kind of cranking up the difficulty on me. Okay, so notice right off how the new bot just goes straight to Major Jihad. There's no more checking to see if whether the events are playable or not. All right, it just says, or no, I guess it does. Sorry, I can't even read. Is this a playable non-US event? No, it is a non-playable Jihadist. So we're going to go there. All right, so we go straight to the Jihad, which I guess is similar. If I can read the fucking chart, I'd be a lot better off. No, major jihad's not possible. We already covered that. Now we go to, is the funding tight? All right, so already you're seeing that it's checking a lot of different priorities over the old chart. And then no, funding is ample. All right, so are cells available? Yes, we already said that, so we're going to recruit. All right, so both charts get us to the same result. So I guess just for flavor, let's just do what the new chart says. Or maybe let's compare the recruit priorities. Let's see. Recruit and travel too. So first we're going to check for a poor Muslim countries with 1 to 4 more cells where T&M, where JSP. I believe GSP stands for Jihad is possible. Where do they say? Where do they give those? Okay. Jihad success possible. Troops plus militia. Okay, so we only have troops in this version. All right, so we don't have that. If recruit, auto recruit with best jihad DRM. So the only place we can auto recruit in our game right now is Afghanistan because it is under Islamic rule. Let's see what the old chart priorities were. For recruit. Recruit. In a regime change country where troops minus cells is greater than 5, there are no regime changes on this board. In Islamic rule where number of cells is less than 2 times the ops. 2 times the ops would be 4. Is this a less than? It's a strictly less than, so we would not recruit here. Because it would be equal to 4 and not strictly less than. In a non-Islamic rule, non-regime change country with the highest recruit success. So what does that mean? That means we don't have any, or we do have Islamic rules, so not here, and not in a regime change country, which we don't have any of, with the highest recruit. So we would actually roll on the table, the random table, till we found a country that was either poor or had a recruit value of 3, which I guess you can't see it, but I'm actually pointing at the Philippines. It has a, well, let me turn the camera. The Philippines has a recruit number of 3. So the old chart in this case would have us roll randomly. The new chart is just going to have us drop them in the auto recruit area. So I'm just going to go with the new chart because it's easy. So let's just take 2 cells here. And we're doing 2 cells because that's how many ops are available to us. And let's just drop those into Afghanistan. All right. And there's no further action on this. So we'll move to the next card. And we have Libyan WMD. Now I already know what the old chart would have us do. The old chart would have us plot. Well, let me see if the conditions are true. So play if Libya is an adversary, which they are. U.S. is hard, which is it is, and no Libyan deal. And we know there's no Libyan deal because U.S. hasn't taken a turn yet, so it can't possibly be in effect. So this would be a playable U.S. event, and whenever you have a playable U.S. event, you just go straight to plot. So that's what the old chart would do. Let's see what the new chart would do. Playable non-U.S. event, no. Major jihad possible at a major jihad success at poor possible. No, that's not true. Funding is not tight. Actually, did I make a misstep? I think I made a misstep on the last play. Is funding tight? So let's do a backup here. So I told you I'd make mistakes. So I've heard some people like that I bumble through things, kind of like Collindale. So let's just back that up because I made a mistake. Funding was not tight, so cells in good or fair Muslim were jihad success possible. No. Poor Muslim with 1 to 4 cells. And T&M. No, that wasn't possible. Funding was moderate. No cells available. Yes. Oh, actually, we still would have got to recruit. No matter how we would have done that. So there was actually no need to back up. And we'll get back to the Libyan WMDs. And we already said that the old chart would do plot. So let's see what the new chart would do. Playable 90%, no. Major jihad success possible poor, no. Funding is not tight. Cells in good or fair, no. Poor Muslim country with 1 to 4 more cells than troops and militia where jihad success possible. Funding is moderate, nope. Cells available, yes. So we're going right back to recruit. So I think in this case I'm going to go with the old chart. Or sorry, the new chart. Now why am I doing that? So the old chart would have us plot. And I think the reason for that is that it doesn't want the U.S. event to go off. And under the old solo rules, that was the safeguard for U.S. events. They basically always plotted, and they never had the penalty where the U.S. event goes off. And in the solo rules for the expansion, they already say that the U.S. event never goes off. So they're basically treating the U.S. cards as if they're non-affiliated. And so I think that they're strictly better off recruiting here. And I'm just going to I think they're going to have the same recruit priority, which is if auto recruit possible with best jihad modifier. So they're going to get 3 more troops into Afghanistan, which I think is strictly better than plot, because I don't think you can plot in a jihadist country or an Islamic rule. Well, it has to be a non-Islamic rule country with cells. So they couldn't even plot. So I guess because they couldn't plot in the old chart, they would go to radicalization. Yeah, because if we were to have done the plot, it would have been as much as possible in the U.S., which we couldn't do. Prestige was not low. Abu Saif, not in the Philippines. In countries with troops, which even though we have troops, there's no cells there. The global war on terror penalty is not greater than 0. They don't have anyone in countries with U.S. posture. None in countries with aid. Funding does equal 9, so they would have just gone straight to radicalization. I actually think maybe radicalization would have been better, because radicalization does some nasty stuff. They would have got to place 1 cell into a random country. The next stop automatically travels 1 cell. Funding is not greater than 9. Oh, so we would have worsened a government. So let's actually back that up and do a radicalization, because I do think that's strictly better in this case. All right, so what did that first thing of radicalization say? First stop automatically places 1 cell into a random country. So let's do that. Where did I put my dice? Telling you, really compelling YouTubing right here. Wonder if I left them in the box. Which I wouldn't think I'd be that dumb. Or I wonder if old Commander Andy ran off with them. But he's been pretty good about not messing up my games. I hate it when these boxes are basically airtight, sealed. And of course I left them in the box. Like an unprepared idiot. Okay, here we go. So we're going to drop this cell into a random country. Here's the roll. Got tan 1, black 5. So where does that tell us? Tan 1, black 5. We're going to roll on Shingen. We rolled a 5. So we're going to put 1 randomly into Spain. Spain is untested, so we're going to roll its posture. And Spain is soft. So this goes back to what I was saying, that it's typically easier to play this game when the U.S. has a soft posture. So that's going to take our global war on terror to 0. I believe that we still stay world hard. I think it actually has to cross over before we flip it. So we're not out of sync with the world just yet, which is good. Let's going to make our job a lot easier. Okay, what does the next point of radicalization do? Next op automatically travels one cell by flowchart. So non-Islamic rule country, or sorry, we're going to go from an Islamic rule where cells greater than ops, which we have, that's in Afghanistan. And we're going to go to a non-Islamic rule country with besieged regime, which we do have. We started off a besieged regime in Somalia. So one cell from Afghanistan travels there to Somalia automatically. And then funding is not less than 9. So each remaining op worsens a good or fair Muslim country's governance by 1 level. So we have 3. I'm going to roll a die. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got a 2. So we're going to worsen Syria to poor. So that's going to make poor Islamic rules countries go up and fair good go down. So for this card, the new chart would have us recruit more cells, and the old chart had that radicalization skip. So in this instance, the old chart was a little bit more nasty because of that radicalization escape. It does look like the new flowchart does have a radicalization escape clause, but I was trying to see how you get to it. And I'm not seeing it immediately. I'll have to read up on the rules maybe in between videos and see what should happen there. Okay, so that's the end of those the Jihadist 2 cards. So I'm going to take those and put them in my discard pile over here. None of them triggered, so none of them are marked and removed, which I guess doesn't matter too much because I just have this set up as a 1-deck game. So it's not going to matter too much. Alright, so I said that I was going to do something a little standard. So let me just do what everyone typically does, which is to do a regime change. I'm going to try and do it with detainee release because it's a play if U.S. disrupted this or last action phase, which I didn't. So I can get that to go off without any trouble. A lot of times in this game, you really want to look for jihadist, like if you're the U.S., you want to look for jihadist cards that can't trigger. And same thing if you're the jihadist, you want to look for U.S. cards that won't trigger. So try to mitigate these cards, whenever possible. And then I need one more op. I'm probably going to need this. Getting to be able to select Scandinavia's posture is probably going to be important to us. See, what does Morotox do? We can stop the Abu Saif, which is pretty good. What does Tora Bora do? Tora Bora might be good for us. What does Mossad and Sheen Bet do? Oh, this will be a good one because this event's probably going to be useless for a while. So what we're going to do is we want to do a regime change, which requires 3 ops, but I need to keep my 2 op cards handy. Actually, I might even be overthinking this. I was really afraid of Martyrdom Operation go off. Oh, so this won't even go off. So this is going to be a good time to spike this card, actually. I tend to find that martyrdom operation is brutal against the U.S. And I even won a game one time because I was able to do a martyrdom operation in the United States, and I was able to place 2 WMDs, ensuring a game win. So this is a really nasty card, and it's good to get rid of it early. And it's automatically 3 ops. And I want to go ahead and play it now when I know that it's not possible to go off. Well, I guess this is technically going to go off in Spain, which I don't think I mind that much. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So I'm going to play a martyrdom operation. I'm just going to randomly grab 2 plots here. Put them in Spain. Get rid of that guy. And I'm going to do a regime change. Let me read the procedure on this to make sure I get it 100% correct. Okay, deploy 6+ troops, all cells to active, shift to ally, roll governance, place a green regime change marker, roll for prestige. Alright, so grab 6 troops, shift this to poor ally. So now Islamic resources are going to go down to 0. See what else do I need to do. All cells go to active. Oh, I'm supposed to roll for governance, which I will do here in a second. So I guess there's a chance it could go fair, which would be ideal. Oh, and it does. It goes fair. So this is going to go down. This is going to go back up. All right. What else? Roll governance. Place a green regime change marker. And put that there. And roll for prestige. All right. So rolling for prestige is a 2-step process. I'm going to roll 1 die to see if the prestige is going to go up or down. 2/3 chance it goes down. 1/3 chance that it goes up. And thankfully it's going to go up. So this is going to make this game a lot easier. And then I roll 2 dice and take the lower. So we're actually going to go up 2 prestige. So it actually turned out to be a really good deal for the US. All right. Now I think what I'd like to do is to immediately reassess. I'm not really stopping these terror plots here. It's going to be a waste of time. I don't want to waste 2 actions disrupting. They already have a ton of funding, so I don't think this is going to hurt too bad. I think reassessing is a full round action. Yeah, I can't reassess this turn, but I think what I want to do is keep... I'm only 1 step away from being able to get my +2 War of Ideas bonus. So I think what I want to do is just go ahead and disrupt. So that way I can get rid of 2 cells in Afghanistan, and I will gain a prestige. So why don't I do that? Covert action's pretty hard to get off, so I think I'm going to do that. No, what I need to do is the detainee release that I talked about. No, I guess if I do that, though, I'm going to place a cell where the disruption occurred. So that might not be so good. Let's look at Tora Bora again. Play if at least 2 cells in a regime change. Oh, I'd have to roll prestige, and I don't want to tempt fate with that. So let me just use it as the generic 2 2 ops without the event triggering. And I'm going to disrupt because I get to affect 2 cells because I have more than 2 troops. Turn those to the funding track. And then prestige is going to go up 1. All right. And then that is the US's turn. Okay, so that was through 1 turn. Or not 1 turn, but 1 round in a turn. I guess, yeah, I guess that was 1 round of a turn. But that'll shoot up 30 minutes. So my camera tends to get glitchy around this part. So let me go ahead and pause right here, and then I'll come back with the with some more playthrough. Okay, welcome back for the next part of this video. So it's actually been a few days since I recorded the last segment, and I want to take a minute to talk about wargaming and cats. Now, on this Facebook group that I'm on for wargamers, you get a lot of posts showing cats messing up games or just generally being a pain in the butt. So, you know, I can definitely sympathize with that, and or maybe is it empathize? I think empathize is the word that I meant to use there. Luckily, Commander Andy doesn't mess up too much. He bumped the glass, but nothing seemed to get too far out of place. None of the pieces are, you know, missing or on the floor or anything that I can tell. So that's good. But the one thing he did do is, as I showed in the previous segment, I've been putting my cards right here on this holder, and Commander Andy chewed up this card right here. So that kind of really pissed me off, to be 100% honest. Luckily, I was able to buy a sealed deck off of Board Game Geek. In case you guys don't know this, if you go to the trades section on any particular game, there's a place on there that says has parts or wants parts. So that can be a good resource to get any components. Because unfortunately with a lot of GMT games, they tend to be low print run. So finding parts copies can be fairly difficult. But a gentleman really helped me out. $15 and I'm getting a set of cards brand new sealed. So luckily I won't have to deal with that eyesore in the future. And then I'll have a deck minus 1 copy of detainees released for parts in the future. But Commander Andy doesn't seem to chew on the cards like if they're in a stack like this. So lesson learned. Another thing you might notice is that I might sound a little extra nasally. Another reason why this game has been delayed a few days is that I got sick over this past week. Just a head cold that I'm trying to get over, and just didn't feel like doing much of anything. You know, that general malaise that you get into when you're sick. So in the meantime, I checked up on some rules, and I remember in the previous segment talking about how I didn't see the obvious escape flow out of the new chart. And it says in the solo rules that if you ever use if you don't use all the ops points available on a card, you go to the radicalization part. So the escape clause is kind of built into the rules and just not as obvious on the player aid as in the old version. So note that down as another difference. And then one thing I forgot to do before I ended the segment last time is I forgot to resolve these plots after the US's turn. So let me go ahead and start us off by doing that. Let's see what happens to unresolved plots in non-Muslim country. Add the plots number to funding, which I'm not going to bother to do since funding's already at 9. Roll posture for the country. I'm just going to roll posture twice. I'll resolve the black die first. So it's going to go, it's just going to say soft with both rolls. And I'll put that. And the reason why I didn't want to reveal the plots is you're supposed to kind of put these out randomly. And I don't want to have to kind of know where one is and deal with that. Maintain the illusion of fog of war. And then there's a -1 effect if the plot is resolved in a non-Muslim country with troops. And there's only one circumstance where that can happen, and that is in the Philippines. Okay, so there we are. Back to the Jihadist turn. And they do Predators. And that is a playable US event. So let's look and see what the new... I already know what the old flowchart to do. The old flowchart will just plot this immediately. So let's see what the new chart does. Playable non-US event. No, it is not. It is a playable US event. So this is a no. Major jihad possible. No. So we kind of just go back through that logic. So it looks like a lot of the differences with this flow chart is that we're not immediately escaping the flow by getting bogged down with plots whenever there's a US event. So I'm going to say that's the glaring difference with this flow chart. So let's follow out the flow chart here. Funding is not tight. Cells in good or fair were fair Muslim where jihad success possible. Cells in good or fair Muslim where jihad success possible. Yes, that is true. If I am reading this correctly, because we can do that here in Afghanistan. Let me just double check that. Cells in good or fair, check. Where jihad success possible. Yes, so we're going to do a minor jihad. So we're going to get 2 dice on that. And we get a 3. Neither one of those are good enough. Or sorry, 3 and a 5. Neither one of those is less than or equal to that. And success, or consequence of failure on a jihad roll is that we remove those troops. Alright. Now the jihadist bot's in a dangerous space or place right now. They only have 2 cells on the board, so this could be bad for them. And let's see. Zarqawi is the next card. If I recall correctly, on the old chart, we would resolve the event on a non-associated card, and then we would play it for ops. So the old bot would... Oh, sorry for the camera bump there. The old bot would play this event, and then it would do ops. So it's like it gets the best of both worlds on a unassociated. Now, I know this is a key difference, so let's see what the flowchart does. Is this a playable non-US event? And it says play if either Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, or Jordan has troops. Okay, so this is actually not a playable one, so we're going to bypass that. Did I forget to test Somalia at some point? I think I did. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. 3, so it's a poor neutral. So put that there. This goes up 1. Alright. See, I told you I'd make mistakes. Luckily, I'm catching them before the commenters come in. Alright, so this is not a playable US event or non-US event. So is major jihad success at poor possible? No. Funding's not tight. Cells in good or fair were JSP? Yes. So we're going to try to do a minor jihad in Afghanistan. And that is successful. So that is going to take that from fair to poor. And then that's going to make this go down and make this go up. All right. All right, so the new bot does not get the best of both worlds on the unassociated event, which is kind of nice. I kind of felt like these things were the most deadly cards in the old version. And I went ahead and resolved these two cards on the new chart just because I didn't think about comparing the two like I did in the first little segment, but that's okay. I mean, this is a comparison. This isn't a real game or anything, so that's all right. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove these. And now back to our turn as the U.S. And looking at my hand of actiony goodness. So maybe let's talk some strategy real quick. What am I trying to do here? I think I want to go ahead and get Afghanistan under control because I really don't want to have the Jihadist player having a one card advantage on me. When the Jihadist player starts getting a card advantage, that is a bad place to be. I really don't want foreign fighters to go off because I don't want to deal with all that crap in Afghanistan. What should I go with? I've got War of Ideas at 2. It might be a good idea to go ahead and get Pakistan to good. I would get a +1 on that roll. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. I want to do a War of Ideas in Pakistan because if I can get that to good, I've got a really good snowball going on right there. So why don't I go ahead and do that? I need a 2 ops card to do that. Maybe do I want to get rid of covert action? Yeah, this could work. It would be nice to get an adversary to neutral, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do that to War of Ideas in Pakistan. I get a -1 because I'm attempting to go to good, but I get a +2 from my prestige. So I'm going to get a total of +1 to this roll. And that is a 5. So that worked. So I got it to good. It's worth 2 resources. So we'll go there. Flip that over to good. All right, now what should I do? Should I attempt fate? And then I could get a +2 on Gulf States, but I'd really like to get rid of that cell in Afghanistan. What should I do? I do have 5 more cells, or 5 more troops than cells. So I could do a War of Ideas in Afghanistan, but the problem with that is if they do another jihad roll, then it's like I did all that work for nothing. Or what about doing something like this? I can block Abu Sayyaf, which is kind of nice, I suppose. Actually, I think what I want to do is I want to spike this detainees released because I don't want to be forced to play this and have this to come back and bite me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this chewed up detainee release. Thanks a lot, Commander Andy. And I'm going to do a War of Ideas in Gulf States. I get a +2 to this for War of Ideas. Let me put this in the discard pile. I get +2 for War of Ideas and because there's a good adjacent. So +2. There we go. Outstanding. So it's going to give me 3 resources. I'm going to flip to good. And this is actually a really good start to this game. All right, that was my 2 cards. So let's switch it back to the Jihadists. Backlash. Okay, so we already talked about how, and just to reiterate, so the old flow chart is, do you have a playable non-US event? In this case, we do not. Or actually, this would not be a playable US event because you have to have a plot in a Muslim country. So actually, this would be a non-playable US card. So what would the old flow chart do? Is it a playable non-US event? No. Is it a playable US event? No. Then you start going down the jihad priorities. So that's what the old flow chart would do. Let's look and see what the new chart would do. Well, I think we already know by now it's going to go just straight to the jihad priorities. Because is it a playable non-US event? No. And then we just go down that here. So let's just stick with the new flow chart and see what it does. Funding's not tight. Cells are not in a good or fair anymore because we changed the situation up in Afghanistan, so they're breaking that loop. Poor Muslim country with 1 to 4 more cells than troops and militia, where jihad success possible. I believe that's here. So I'm going to say yes. All right. So among candidates, find travel to priority, move cells adjacent. I kind of struggle with this command when I first started using these new flow charts, but I think what it means is if there are cells adjacent to this country, let's go ahead and do that way. So I'm going to say no travel is possible. Is funding moderate? Nope. So cells available? Yes, we recruit. Now, this is a 1-op, so I'm going to get 1 chance to recruit there in Somalia. I rolled a 4. It's not going to work, so no recruit there. And I do think that's a smarter play. I think the old flow chart would have eventually got us to the same place, but let's verify real quick. So major success not possible, jihad not possible in a good fair, cells available. Yes, we would have recruited, but what would we have recruited to? In a regime change country where troops minus cells greater than 5. So the old flow chart would have had us recruit into Afghanistan. So I think what the new flow chart is doing is saying Afghanistan's going to be, or any regime change country is probably going to be a lost cause. And the reason for that is troops can remove cells, but to the best of my knowledge, there's no cards or abilities that let cells remove troops. So maybe the designers of the new chart were thinking we can't really remove troops, so why don't we let them waste time disrupting, and then we'll go ahead and start on another country. At least that's what I'm going to go with. Trevor or whoever created the new charts can feel free to correct me there. Okay, let's take a look at the next card. Leak. Play if enhanced measures, renditions, or wiretapping is in the event box. None of that is true. Okay, so let's see what the old chart would do. Playable, non-US, no. All right, so we just go straight through. Nothing really changed, so I think it's going to attempt to recruit 3 times in Somalia. And then let's see what the old chart would do. I think the old chart's going to do basically the same. Yes. And it's going to recruit in a regime change country. Let's go ahead. Let's go with the new chart so we can see what the new bot's going to do in terms of recruiting. Or I guess we already know. He's going to recruit there. Why is my personal hard drive stuck? I think the reason why I'm kind of buying for time here is this kind of came up in the last game I played. Because this is 3 ops, I'm unsure if I can use all 3 ops to recruit in Somalia. I'm pretty sure that I can. It's not 1-to-1 like the way Jihad or Plot is, where you have to have 1 cell for each point you're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and play it right now for the sake of the video, that I can recruit 3 times here because I would assume 1 cell could get as many followers as they were charismatic. I mean, that makes sense. I wouldn't think that you would need one cell per recruit die that you're going to try. So anyway, let's just go ahead and roll this for the sake of the video. And maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm not. If I'm wrong, maybe I'll come back and annotate that. If I don't annotate it, just assume that I was playing it correctly. Okay, I got one success here. Are all the dice showing up? Yes. All right, so one success into Somalia. All right, so it's the Jihadist player's turn. Back to the U.S. What do I want to do here? I'm doing really well. I think now's a good time to start setting up Afghanistan to do a War of Ideas chain. Let's do the Libyan deal to play if Iraq or Syria and Libya poor. Play if Iraq or Syria ally. Neither one of them are allies, so I don't even meet that condition. Let's go ahead and just disrupt here in Afghanistan. I have 2 or more troops, so raise prestige. Okay. Can't do foreign fighters. I think what I'm going to do is put Danish cartoons into reserves to set myself up for the next turn. Alright, let's go back to the Jihadists. Play if Indonesia or adjacent country has a cell and is an ally or hard. Play if Indonesia or an adjacent country, which I guess would be Pakistan, India, Thailand, Philippines. So none of those have cells, so that card is not playable. All right. So let's check our priority chart again. Playable non-US event, no. Major jihad possible, no. Funding is not tight. Cells in good or fair, where jihad success possible, which is what JSP is. That's a no. Poor Muslim country with 1 to 4 more cells than troops and militia, where jihad success possible, yes. Among those candidates, travel from adjacent, nope. Funding is not moderate, cells are available. Yes, so we recruit. So another recruit. And again, I'm just going to play it like I talked about a few minutes ago. I get once again 1 success. Go there. Now this is getting dangerous for me because this is a besieged regime, getting close to enough cells. And if we remember from the Armchair General where I talked about this, there's something crazy like a 75-80% chance of them being successful in a besieged regime. So I really need to watch this. Hari killed. All right. Oh, this is good. This is something we haven't seen yet. All right. So is this a playable non-US event? Yes, it is. So we're finally getting to break out of this loop here, or this jihadist loop is what I'm going to call it. Or maybe it's more like a path, whatever. Play the event. Okay, so what does this event say? Test Lebanon. Lebanon is going to be a poor neutral. So that counter is going to go up. Okay. Shift Syria to adversary and worsen its government 1 level, but not to Islamic rule. All right. Syria's government can't get any worse in real life and this board game. Okay. And that's not political. That's just a statement of fact, which I guess all political pundits would say that. So anyway, got to remember the tenets of the Prognar, not to get political. Okay, so it's a playable event. Is it unassociated? No, it is not, so we end. And that's going to be almost identical to the original flowchart. So the original flowchart, playable non-US event, yes. Event recruits or places cells. Nope. Play event. Is it unassociated? No, it is not, so we end. So in both flowcharts, if there's a Jihadist event, you play it and end the turn. All right, so the flowcharts are the same in that respect. Okay, now we got to deal with the turd sandwich over here. I really just want to discard foreign fighters, so I don't want to play that. I set aside that one reserve so we can pitch this and then use a reserve, and then we can do a war of ideas in Afghanistan, because even though it's regime change, I have 5 more troops than cells, so that's going to work. I get a +3 to this roll because I've got +2 on war of ideas and an adjacent good. So what does that mean? What I got to roll? I got to roll a 2 or better, so 83% chance of success here. And of course I roll a 1. And I think this is a good reminder that when we talk about probabilities, that we have to remember probability is a prediction on a bunch of experiments. It is not a crystal ball. So just because I said there was an 83% chance, there was still 17% that I could fail, and that's what happened here. But because this is a +3, it makes it a 4, and I do get an aid marker. So I guess there's that. Okay, what else am I going to do? I've only got... I only have 1 op I can play. I could give the Jihadist -1 funding and block Abu Sayyaf. I don't want to get bogged down in the Philippines. So I think I'm just going to play this for the event. Test Philippines. Philippines is soft, which is bad. So I may have to do a reassessment. And then should probably play Morotox. I know it's, again, riveting television here. There we go. Morotox block. Oh, probably can't even see that. So I shift Philippines to soft and put down the Morotox counter there so I can block Abu Sayyaf if he ever comes into play. And then as the US, I can discard my last card. There we go. And let's see what the last card is. Play if Pakistan has any cells. You know what I'm going to do here? Because I didn't plan on this video taking so long, so I think I'm just going to end the video after I resolve this card, because I want to show one last difference between the new flowchart and the old flowchart, which I think is important. So what I'm going to do is, and I don't want this video to be too much longer than an hour, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a cell in Pakistan to make this playable. Okay, so actually what I should do is actually this is actually going to be good. Okay, because as I was reading this card, so let me explain my hesitation here. So I put that cell into Pakistan to make this playable. Play if Pakistan has any cells, remove 1 cell from Pakistan, set it to poor ally, blocked by Benazir Bhutto. All right, so remember that with the expansion, you have this event instructions table, okay? Now, it kind of sucks that there's no markings on the card to let you know that you should refer to the chart. So maybe in some ways you should look on this with every card you play. This one just leaped out as suspect since it seemed obviously bad for the Jihadists. And so what you do is, so this is card number 108. So card number 108, Musarif. If adversary, neutral, poor, or Islamic rule, treat as unplayable. So we treat this card as if it were unplayable, even though I know I pencil whipped it to be like that. So we would go through the priorities, which because I pencil whipped it, we would roll here. So that was a good demonstration of how the new flowchart has a events chart that you need to look at to make sure that you don't have special instructions on cards. Sort of like in a lot of the coin games. If you guys have played coin, you know how certain cards are there. Oh, and the world should be soft. Not that it's going to matter. Okay, here's what I ultimately want to do before I end the video. Let's suppose that this was the last card in the Jihadist hand. So this is playable, okay? So, and let me make sure it doesn't have a special event instruction. Ha! This one has this playable instruction too. All right, that's a bad example. Let me mulligan again. I can't believe this is so hard to find. Is Kosovo not playable? What is that? It's card number 101. If Serbia is already the opposite of the U.S., it is not. It has not been tested yet. Okay, so this is going to be playable. Okay. Let's get to our flowchart. Playable non-U.S. event. Yes, play event. So what does Kosovo say? +1 prestige, and then set Serbia to the opposite of U.S. posture. Okay, so we would make Serbia soft. It increases the global war on terror relations, but +1 prestige. All right, and then what happens? Is this an unassociated event? Well, yes, it is. Add the card's value to the Jihadist reserves. So we'd make that go up 1. And I think this is one of the key differences on the Jihadist flowchart, is that the old flowchart would let you have the best of both worlds. You would play this out and then do the ops, okay? But now with the new game, you play out the card for the event and then just get reserves. And at least in the 1 or 2 games I've played of this solo with the new flowchart, I found it to be a lot harder, because getting those reserves up means that the Jihadists are going to have more points to do recruits or to travel more cells, and they can typically do more. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I'm not going to play through the 2 turns just because I didn't realize how long these videos were getting. And I just don't want to do a 2-hour game here. Or a 2-hour video playing through another hand. So, what are my ultimate conclusions? I do think the new flowchart is better. I think that the Jihadist bot thinks things out a little bit better. It does a better job of cutting its losses and moving on. When it can, makes it a lot better because it gives it more actions to take. What else can I say about it? I think it does a better job of not getting stuck into loops, which I might have done a poor job explaining here. I like that it has the event chart. Though, to be honest, I think you could put the event instructions table with the old flow chart. Not 100% sure on that, but I think that you can. All right, so also another thing that the new flowchart has, it has these priority tables to kind of help you add even more intelligence to the bots. And that still may be able to be played with the old AI flowchart. Not 100% sure on that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I'm not sure what else there is to say with the comparison and contrast that I haven't already gone over. So, to the viewer that requested that, I hope this is what you were looking for. Thanks everyone for sticking with me for an hour of listening to me babble and probably play this game badly. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.